I was working my usual late shift at a small drive-through cafe. It's a tiny place with only a handful of indoor tables, as most of our business is drive-through. It's not a busy spot, especially late at night. As the lone closer, I'd often sit at a table, lost in my phone, only rising for drive-through orders. This particular night was even quieter, a light drizzle keeping customers away. For 2 solid hours, not a single soul came through. I was peacefully watching Netflix when the front door swung open. It startled me, as nobody ever enters the shop that late. A tall figure, cloaked in darkness, walked to a table and sat, oblivious to my presence. Something was off about him. He was drenched, water dripping from his clothes onto the floor. How had he gotten there? No cars had pulled up. He must have walked. I approached the table cautiously, greeting him and asking what he wanted. He didn't respond, his face blank and expressionless. I repeated myself, but he cut me off, his voice low and demanding. "Who else is working?" he asked. I answered, feeling a chill run down my spine. He ordered a small coffee, and as I turned to prepare it, I saw him standing in the kitchen doorway. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on me, and his face was devoid of any emotion. "Do you need something else?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. He didn't reply. "Put the drink down and come with me," he ordered, his tone urgent. I hesitated, fear gripping me. He was much larger than me, and his intent was clear. Reluctantly, I obeyed, my heart pounding in my chest. As we left the store, he grabbed my shirt and pulled me across the parking lot towards a dark, ominous wooded area. The cold night air whipped around us, and I could feel the fear growing inside me. I tried to think of a way to escape, but he was too strong and too determined. I felt a surge of panic as I realized that I was completely at his mercy. We walked in silence, the only sound the crunch of our footsteps on the gravel path. The trees loomed overhead, their branches casting long, eerie shadows. I tried to focus on the darkness, hoping to find a way out, but it was hopeless. I was trapped. As we reached the edge of the woods, I saw a small clearing. I thought I could make a run for it, but the man was too quick. He grabbed my arm and pulled me back into the darkness. I struggled against him, but it was useless. He was too strong. I closed my eyes, resigned to my fate. I thought about my family, my friends, and my life. I wondered if I would ever see them again. I was scared, but I was also angry. I was angry at the man for putting me in this situation, and I was angry at myself for being so stupid. I opened my eyes and looked at the man. His face was still blank, but his eyes were filled with a cold, calculating intensity. I knew that he was going to hurt me, and I was terrified. Just as I was about to give up hope, I heard a noise in the distance. It was a car, driving down the road. The man froze, his eyes darting towards the sound. I saw my chance and I took it. I broke free from his grip and sprinted towards the road. The man chased after me, but I was too fast for him. I reached the road just as the car was passing by. I waved my arms frantically, and the car slowed down. The driver rolled down the window and I begged for help. The driver saw the man chasing me and immediately stopped the car. The man stopped when he saw the car. He knew that he had been caught. He turned and ran back into the woods. The driver got out of the car and walked over to me. He asked me if I was okay, and I nodded. I was shaking, but I was safe. The driver called the police and reported the incident. The police arrived a few minutes later and took my statement. They also searched the woods for the man, but they couldn't find him. I was lucky to have escaped. If the driver hadn't come along when he did, I don't know what would have happened to me. I was grateful to be alive and safe. I was 18, a teenager with the world at my feet. It was the start of summer, a time for freedom and fun. School was out, and I had no job to tie me down. My days were a blur of video games, YouTube binges, and lazy relaxation. My parents were out of town, a common occurrence that usually brought a sense of carefree independence. I'd invite friends over, or simply relish the solitude. This particular night, I was lost in a favorite Netflix show, scrolling through my phone. It was late, perhaps 11 or 12, when a knock shattered the quiet. Pausing the show, I approached the door, a flicker of curiosity mixed with a hint of unease. It was late, far too late for visitors. I peered through the peephole, my heart pounding. Two men, dressed alike, stood on the porch, their eyes fixed on the door. A split-second decision. Should I announce my presence, or play it cool? I chose silence, watching as they waited. Then, their voices broke the stillness. "We're here to speak with Mr. and Mrs. Ian." They were referring to my parents, though I'd changed the name for privacy. Confused. It was far too late for a visit, even an urgent one. The men exchanged a quiet conversation, then turned and walked away. No car lights, no sound of a departing vehicle. Had they walked here? I returned to the TV, leaving it paused, my senses alert. Minutes later, footsteps approached, but this time they circled the house. I rushed to the back window, watching as they entered the yard and moved towards the back door. I retreated, fear gripping me. Their voices, their fumbling with the lock, filled the air. I grabbed my phone and slipped into the garage, dialing the police. A loud pop echoed through the house, followed by the sound of the door swinging open. Footsteps pounded up the stairs, a door slammed shut. Silence. A horrifying, endless silence. What do they want? I thought to myself. Are they here to harm me? Or my parents? I heard them walking around in the house, looking for something. At a glance, I saw a man with a knife in his hand. It had a stain. It was red. Was it blood? Oh my God. What do they want? Terrified, I couldn't think. I was there just waiting. Waiting for them to find me. What would happen if they did find me? I heard one of the men enter the garage. He walked in. Looked around. Didn't find me. I was terrified. The horrific thought of them finding me. Finally, the sirens wailed, breaking the tension. Quick footsteps descended the stairs, followed by the sound of an argument. Police officers stormed the house, one emerging to guide me outside. The intruders were arrested, silent and uncooperative. Weeks passed, and the mystery remained unsolved. Were they robbers? Or something more sinister? The break-in had rattled me to the core. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were waiting for my parents, that I had narrowly escaped a fate far worse. I think about what would have happened to me. If they caught me sleeping, would have I been kidnapped? Killed? I was so scared for my life. The incident left an indelible mark on me, a reminder of the fragility of safety. The late-night knock, the hushed conversation, the silent retreat, these details replayed in my mind, a haunting echo of the night's events. I don't sleep at night because I have nightmares about that night. I often pondered the what-ifs. What if I had answered the door? Would they have forced their way in regardless? The uncertainty gnawed at me, a persistent question mark hanging over the night's events. The silence of the intruders was another unsettling factor. They offered no explanation, no motive. Their silence was deafening, a void that fueled speculation and fear. Were they part of a larger operation? Were they targeting my family specifically? The unanswered questions left a lingering sense of unease. The police investigation yielded little. The intruders were charged with breaking and entering, but their ultimate motives remained a mystery. The case seemed to fade into obscurity, leaving me with more questions than answers. They only said that there was a gang that looked into empty houses at night for people to harm, or did they say kill? Other people have disappeared from robbed houses. The experience forever altered my perception of safety and security. The once familiar house now held a sinister undercurrent, a reminder of the night's intrusion. I became hyper-aware of sounds, shadows, and unfamiliar presences. The simple act of answering the door became a calculated decision, a potential gateway to danger. The incident also forced me to confront my own vulnerability. As a young, inexperienced teenager, I was ill-equipped to handle such a situation. The fear, the uncertainty, and the helplessness were overwhelming. I realized the importance of preparedness, of knowing how to react in such a situation. In the aftermath of the incident, I took steps to enhance my security. I installed a security system, reinforced the doors and windows, and became more vigilant about locking up. I also learned self-defense techniques, empowering myself with the knowledge and skills to protect myself.